Awakening with Brahma Kumaris.
The impact of meditation is worldwide known, but today we'll dig deeper into the idea of Raj Yoga Meditation. How different is it from other meditation? In other forms of meditation, they use mantras, flowers, or objects on which they meditate, but Raj Yoga Meditation is a little unusual. And once again, to take us into this beautiful journey of meditation, we have here with us in our studios Sister Jayanti, the European Director of Brahma Kumaris. Welcome, Sister Jayanti.
Hello and Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Sister Jayanti, in your previous session, you spoke very beautifully about the impact of meditation. But the word meditation, that has been in existence since times immemorial, what does that word mean? Does it have a significant meaning? Could it not be contemplation, reflection? Why meditation?
All of these words are very important and very close. When I'm reflecting, then I'm going inside and processing. When I'm contemplating, then again, I'm focusing my mind on something that's very important and maybe even something that's sacred. And meditation has a connection with the word to heal in Latin. And so meditation is useful because it's talking about the healing of the inner being, because we have 1,000 different cures for the body now, not just allopathic medicine, but we have many different complementary therapies. But this is something that can heal the mind and the feelings and the emotions, healing of the inner being. And so I like this word meditation.
You specifically kept mentioning the word healing, but who is wounded? Because the body is a very intelligent entity. I mean, I cut my finger, I have a scratch. I don't need to meditate. It heals by itself. So the body is a clever, intelligent entity and it heals. So who is wounded that needs healing? This inner being, where is it?
It's true that when something happens to the body, we can see it, but it's not the body that's actually feeling the pain of whatever it is that's happened to the body. It's actually something within that's experiencing that pain. And the being that's within is what I would use the word soul. It's called Ruh, Spirit, Atma, different names for that invisible, non-physical, metaphysical being, the soul. And for example, when the soul has left the body at the time that we describe as death, then you even burn the body or you bury it under 6 feet of earth and they won't feel any pain. There won't be any pain because that which is actually feeling, that's the inner being, the being that I describe as the soul.
So am I understanding that all these different types of word, Ruh, Atma, Spirit, is just the meaning of a soul? Am I seeing myself as a composition of something physical and non-physical? Am I both?
Usually we don't think about the invisible and the non-physical. We just identify with the physical form. We look into the mirror and we see a woman and we see the age. So gender and age jump at us instantly, but also color of skin or race, nationality. And then depending on the clothes you wear, I put you into a box that says you are X, Y, or Z. And so all of these things influence my own vision of myself, but also they influence the way in which I see others. And so we're very much locked into a box, which is the box of this body.
But if I may say, when you go out to introduce yourself, you have to use your physical identity. You have to say, your family name, your nationality, your place of birth, your origin, all that stuff. This is coming totally into a physical, that identity is me.
When somebody tells me that this is your name, and
Yes.
this is your place of birth, and this is your age,
Yeah.
and what I'm seeing is this person in front of me, how much do I really know you? And when I hear your name, and I think that, this person was born in such and such a place, something goes tick, 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 tick in my mind, and I have certain impressions which may or may not be correct. And again, when I hear the word driver and woman, and I put those things together.
Yeah, women are not good drivers.
Well, and that may be true for some, but actually what they've discovered is that, now I hope nobody thinks I'm being a feminist or I'm being discriminatory, but actually the research of results in a recent survey were that men have more accidents than women.
Yes, I agree.
And so, but you can see how we put things into a box. And so, how much do I know about that being that you are? When I hear your name, or I hear of your place of birth, or any of those things, I know nothing at all about you.
Except the label that I put on you, or the label that you give yourself.
That's right. And all of those things are very, very constricted and restricting. And they're not real. They're very artificial. They're very false. And the thing is that we've come to believe them. And we restrict ourselves and we restrict our possibilities because of those labels. I'll give you an example. When I was 18, I was told that women can do this, women cannot do this. And fortunately, I was being educated in London. I'd lived there since I was a little child. And so my mind refused to accept those labels. I wasn't yet a meditator, but I reacted very strongly when people told me, you're a girl, you can do this, you're a girl, you cannot do this. And I just had a very internal, deep resentment, I could say, not just a reaction, but a resentment. Okay, that was in the 60s. And I think we've come a long way away from that. And yet on many subtle levels, we do identify with things. And so the clothes you wear, again, instantly, there are certain images and impressions that come to my mind, and I behave with you according to that. The car that you drive, again, you see the car and you've created an image of the person according to that. And a bit of it may be true, but most of it very certainly isn't true.
So you mean to say when we take away the layers of all these labels and boxes and visible things in front of us, you actually go to the basic of it and discover that each one is an entity called soul?
When I start stripping away the layers of the things connected with this body, the place of birth, the gender, the age, the race, the religion, I go deeper inside, then I'm beginning to see who I truly am. But also the external things, the position that I hold. Today I hold a position. Tomorrow it might be taken away from me. Or tomorrow I may decide I don't want that position anymore. So does my identity disappear because that position has gone away?
Naturally, wouldn't it? I mean, that is what I am known for. That is my identity. I am a housewife, or I am the wife of Mr. So-and-so. When I am no longer his wife...
Does that mean you disappear? You don't disappear.
No, I don't.
You still have an identity which is your own. Or the other situation, before you married this particular individual, did you not exist?
Yes.
You
yes.
of course existed. And so you have an identity which is quite separate from that which is related to another human being, or that role that you play in this particular company or this particular organization. I am me, even when I stop being the European coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris. At least I hope I'll still be me. Mm-hmm. And of course I should be me. And so all of these labels are very, very temporary. But the problem is that we identify so deeply with those labels that when that label is removed from us by circumstance, by situation, then we feel bereft, we feel lost. I'll give you an example. In Britain today, most people have at least 3 different careers in their lives.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you started a career and that would go on till the time that you retired. And maybe that's the situation everywhere in the world, including India now, that you start a first career, but that comes to a halt and you have to reinvent yourself, and there's something else, and there's something else. Now imagine, here I am, I'm fired from my job, and I say, but that's who I am. I'm no longer that. What do I have? I have
You're
nothing.
lost.
And so that's the situation of many people today, because they haven't bothered to look behind that layer, which is the layer of position, or another thing that people get stuck with, and that is possessions. I spoke about car. Now here's a situation. Just imagine I've got this beautiful shining car and somebody smashes into it, or maybe even just dents it a little. And it's as if I have been physically hurt.
Wounded.
Now this is just a physical piece of metal. It's just some wheels to get me from A to B. But in my imagination, this is me. This is my identity. And so it feels as if I have been hurt inside. And my reactions are very aggressive and violent. And I'm ready to fight with that person.
Absolutely. So the analogy, if I may correctly say it, it's like I am a person, I am a tree with many branches. These are the branches of the different roles that I play in a single day.
Mm-hmm.
So if one branch of myself being a wife is not successful, or this branch of myself being a career woman is not successful, I don't have to break.
Mm-hmm.
I still stand strong because I am that tree and these are just my branches. So this is the soul, this constant entity.
Yes, that's a very beautiful example. And in fact, even if a branch breaks, that doesn't mean that it's the end of the tree, but
Yes.
also it doesn't mean that it's the end of that branch. So today I'm no longer an engineer, but I can become a consultant, I can become something else. And so that branch can regrow and it can have a different form and it can still be very beautiful and be part of that tree.
I find it's quite a feeling of security in a way that the only thing that changes are the roles that you play, but you are constant, that you are always there. This entity called soul, this non-visible thing that is there, what is it? An energy? Is it what? Electrical? Is it? What is it?
We've been able to have so much information about the physical body, especially within the last 20 years or so. Medical science has given us a huge amount of information about exactly what's going on in here. But I'll tell you what a Nobel laureate in medicine told me maybe about 20 years ago. He said, I can tell you everything about how the eyes see and how the image is formed and whatever is going on between the physical eyes and light and the brain, but I can't tell you who it is who is actually seeing. And
Interesting. So like the computer and the hard drive.
Yeah.
You are the hard drive and that's the computer. It doesn't work, it doesn't function.
Maybe I'd
without
like
that.
to put it a bit differently.
Okay.
Maybe I'd like to say that the brain is the hardware and the software is the soul, because the brain also has its own very specific function. And some people would say that, well, yes, this is the body, and yes, if I move my hand, it's not the hand that decides to move, but it's the brain that's giving instructions to make the hand move. But what is it that's telling the brain that this is the time to put your hand in your pocket and give something in donation? It's not the brain that's deciding that. It's something that's there within my inner being that's motivating me and saying, here's somebody in need. Let me be able to
And
do
that being is now known as the soul.
Correct.
So which means when people are brain dead, or when people have problems, but yet they're like Stephen Hawking. For example, Stephen Hawking, he's completely disabled, but yet he's able to conjure up the most amazing scientific theories. So his brain is still working, his body is not working, but something that's triggering, that's the soul, that's thinking using the brain processes. Is that how it is? Or Christopher Reeve, he was paraplegic, he had massive problems after his fall, and yet he was able to direct a movie while sitting on a chair. So the soul is very important to the body.
Stephen Hawking is an interesting example because he actually doesn't believe in anything beyond the brain. But I believe that there's something that's making the brain function also. And so there's that invisible, non-physical, metaphysical being, which is the living being, the being that resides here in the center of the forehead, just in front of the brain, just in front of the pineal gland. And that is the trigger of whatever it is that's happening through the brain and through the physical body, which is why, say, for example, when there's somebody who's in a coma, now the brain is also not functioning normally and everything is absolutely still. And yet, I've been in that situation where I've met a couple of people who, when you speak to them, you can see that they're responding to the person who's speaking to them.
Whilst in coma.
That's right. The doctors are able to say that, yes, we've been able to see that there's a response. And so the soul is there. It's trapped in that situation. It's not able to express itself, but it's still able to receive your thoughts, receive your words, and respond to them in a certain way. And so soul, brain, body. Now the soul is that which is the software. The brain is that which is the hardware. And that is what is making the physical body move. And I was just recently at a gathering of scientists in the UK. And within that we had people from many different disciplines. And the latest area of research is in the area of consciousness. And consciousness which is separate to the physical body or even the physical brain. And so they've been able to see how the brain cells are even able to reform. About 10 years ago, they thought that even the brain couldn't reform, but now they've been able to see that there's a plasticity that's able to make the brain reform. And any part of the body is also in that way has that plasticity. But beyond that, there's that being which is the soul. And you might have heard of something called the near-death experience.
Yes, but before we jump into near-death experience, because it's a very important aspect of the continuity of a soul in that. You spoke about the various aspects of the soul, but the idea of coma, when a person is in coma. What about when a person is under surgery, is under anesthesia? What happens to that living being?
Most times, that living being is in
Resting?
a state of sleep. That's
Really?
right. Sleep.
But alive?
Oh, yes.
Constantly alive?
Oh, yes, definitely. This is why they're monitoring the breathing, they're monitoring the blood pressure.
Yes,
so
actually.
all of that is going on. But in fact, sometimes what happens is that, especially on the surgery table, and this is now again recent, within the last 25, 30 years, prior to that, when somebody under surgery died, that was it, they're gone. But now they have a lot of techniques to be able to revive people. And so what people have come back and reported with is to say that they were out of the body, or their consciousness was out of the body, and they were able to see and hear whatever it is that the surgeon and the nurses and the staff around them were saying. And when they've been able to come back and speak of it, they speak about all the medical things that were going on that as a layperson they would have no information about at all. And so yes, the near-death experience fits in absolutely with what you're talking about. They're able to see, they're able to hear, but they are not able to speak. because their physical body is out of action at that moment, but the soul is completely aware and is able to understand everything that's going on, and in certain cases is able to come back and report and tell us.
Sister Jayanti, so far what's very clear is that we know a soul is a soul. It is a non-physical entity. It plays all the different roles. All along, without this concept that the soul and the body are separate, we usually, the cart and the horse, we put the cart with all its labels and goods on it, and then the horse at the back. Now it's reverse. We put the horse, which is the soul, in front, and then comes with it the activities of the soul. Tell us more about this entity.
I would say that the soul is absolutely minute.
Has no weight?
No. When people have tried to catch the soul at the point of departure, when there's death, they can't find anything. They're not able to capture it. And it makes sense, because if it was something physical that had weight, length, width, breadth and height, then at some point medical science would have been able to give us the technology to be able to discover it and tell us about it.
So it's the body that's tall or short, fat or thin.
Yeah.
The soul is free from all this dimension.
Yeah.
And it occupies a space, and yet it's weightless.
Yeah. And even the space it occupies is, in a sense, non-spatial, in that if you were to explore the brain, you wouldn't say that right here in front of the brain there is this place, which is the soul. But I would say that you can understand the soul, and more importantly, you can experience the soul. You can't find it by any external method of technology. And so my experience of all these years is that I can't prove to anybody that a soul exists.
And in a scientific world, proof is the most important thing. But you said something much more interesting than proof. You can experience it. Perhaps you can take us into this idea of experiencing the soul whilst in the body.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to sit with both feet on the ground so that the body is more balanced. And normally we would meditate with our eyes open. And the only way to experience the soul is by going inside in silence. But when I meditate and I'm speaking at the same time, to be able to guide others into that meditation, my eyes tend to close. I'm sorry. But don't follow me. But keep your eyes open, because it's a very important part of Raj Yoga, and we can take up that detail another time. But try just looking straight ahead, not staring at anything or not fixing your gaze on anything, but just gently rest your gaze in front. Within this physical body of mine, there is another being. The being that I am. The being that uses this physical body to express itself. I want to discover my original personality. I've acquired many experiences. I hold many memories. But is there something within me which is forever? I go deep within. And in this inner journey, I come to the core of my being. And there's a sense of stillness within. A state in which I can explore the treasures that I hold inside. Treasures that I'd totally forgotten. The treasure of peace, of love, of truth. All this is within I, the inner being. This is who I am. In this awareness, I come back to the moment in physical time and space, the situation that I'm in currently, but now with the experience of my own inner treasures and the being that I am, a being of radiant energy shining in the center of the forehead. Thank you.
That was a very peaceful feeling. A feeling of kind of liberation, that I'm free from all the labels, the roles that I have to play, that I am me and it's real, that I am a soul. That was very beautiful. Once again, Sister Jayanti, thank you for being so enlightening. The beautiful understanding of yourself as a soul, the most important entity in this body. And it was very, very clear and very, very useful. I think this becomes one of the most basic understanding of meditation.
Thank you.
If you wish to discuss your problem or have a question to ask or want to know your nearest Raj Yoga Meditation Center, call us on 099 99 744 555.
Om Shanti Om. I'm a peaceful soul. Om Shanti Om. I'm a peaceful soul. Ye Dwani Mangal Dwani hai. Om Shanti Om. This sound is a sacred sound. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. I'm a peaceful soul. Om Shanti.